Welcome to First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. I'm your host, James Gardner, certified athletic therapist, certified strength and conditioning specialist, yoga instructor, human being. This platform, for the pros, by the pros, anybody in the performance space, and beyond. Welcome here to share in the stories of professionals, experiences, journeys, learning along the way. It's a platform to connect, to network, and to be a part of a community that cares, with conversations that matter, experiences that resonate, and generate ideas, thought-provoking, organic dialogue, passionate pros. Brought to you as always by First Star Therapy, Mobility Tape, Epic, and Benchmark Athletics. In association with the Canadian Athletic Therapists Association. It's First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. Thanks for being here. Thank you for being a part of it. So we have a very special evening tonight on Let's Chat, an athletic therapy roundtable. This is Talkey night in Canada, coast to coast with ATs. What we have this evening is 9 guests in place from coast to coast in Canada. Each one of these participants, panel members, whatever we're going to call them, colleagues, friends, works at a USports institution, has had a different journey, a different path to get to where they currently are. And the idea, again, of this platform is to kick off Athletic Therapy Month, for one, to celebrate our profession, for 2, to network and build common ground for all of us, and to keep this thing moving. We've had a lot of great guests on, a lot of great Canadians on, and we're going to keep this thing rolling and really start off Athletic Therapy Month unofficially a couple days early as we make our way across Canada with some great people this evening. So we'll jump in right away. Ground rules for the evening: this is being recorded for the sake of, you got it, saving the world one conversation at a time. We'll have lots of conversations tonight, and for the archive purposes of going back in time and discussing or connecting with or reviewing the information discussed this evening. So really appreciate your time and being here to our panel. I'll thank you as a group and then individually as we go along, definitely. And for everybody who's participating in the room as the audience members and those kinds of things, bear with me. We are working through an iPad, and I am working through a lobby of a hotel currently, which is great. Living on the fly like an AT does. And we're going to start over on the West Coast. So what I'll get you to do, guys on the panel, and women and ladies on the panel, as you move across, just introduce yourself, your credentials, and give us the 2-minute breakdown of where you're at and how you got there, however you see fit. So we'll start over there on the West Coast at UBC-Okanagan. Jump in, Kev.
Awesome. Thanks very much for having me. This is great, James. Appreciate the invite. So yes, as James said, UBC-Okanagan is where I work. Graduated from Sheridan College back in 2008. And if some of you know the Guelph-Sheridan integration program many years ago, I was originally one of the last Guelphies to go through the program. So graduated Sheridan in 2008, moved out to the West Coast and started working with BC Lions for 3 years as the assistant trainer there. And then took a 1-year flew back to Toronto. That's where I was born and raised, back in Burlington, Ontario. Spent a year doing some kind of resetting the system a little bit and trying to figure out what I want to do. And then realized that my passion was working in the soccer industry, and found a job with the Whitecaps. So back out to the West Coast, to Vancouver Whitecaps for 3 years with their youth residency program. So working with their U12s all through to their U23 program. Did that for 4 years, and then dabbled with some national team programs up as well at the U15 and U17 level on the men's side. And from there, was able to get the opportunity to apply for the job at UBC-Okanagan, which originally was posted as a strength and conditioning position, but was then reposted as an AT strength and conditioning role. So it works really well for me as a AT and a strength and conditioning coach, certified with the CSCS. So.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Very precise and to the point, and definitely under time. And really appreciate you being here. I know you're at dinner time over that way too, so appreciate you being here. Let's keep moving right across, and we'll go with you, TJ. You jump in, man. Give us a little intro and how you got to and where you're at.
All right, so right now I'm working at University of Alberta in Edmonton. My path has been pretty straightforward, actually. I did my undergrad at U of A and worked as a student with the Golden Bears and Pandas teams. And then from there, when I graduated in 2008, I moved down to Calgary to do the Mount Royal program for the year, and then finished that 2009, and then came back to U of A to collect all my hours. And then fortunately, I had the perfect timing because the gentleman that was in my position before moved on to the Eskimos. And so I was kind of offered the position before it went out, I guess. And then really I've been there since. There's been 4 of us now that are hired on full time, and I started my Master's of Education 2 years ago. So I'm just wrapping that up hopefully in the next couple of months. I've dabbled a lot with the hockey teams at U of A, and then I've dabbled a little bit in future games with the men's hockey team as well. But other than that, it's been really straightforward, stayed in my province, and that's about it.
Amazing. That's a sweet spot, man. Do with what you know. That's great stuff. And I'm sure they're really appreciative having somebody who knows the territory there as well. So appreciate you being on here and taking the time to be here, TJ. Thank you so much. And let's keep moving. Easterly. So we're going to stop in Regina here. Racquel, are you there?
I am, yeah.
All right. Give us your rundown.
All right, so I work at the University of Regina. I'm originally from Prince Albert, so 4 hours north. Growing up, I was heavily involved in sports, and after high school, I actually played for the Cougars soccer team at the U of R while doing my undergrad in the kinesiology faculty. Towards the 4th year of my kin degree, I was kind of unsure of what I wanted to do. And so I had connected with a former U of R soccer player who was working out at Wilcox, Saskatchewan at the Notre Dame College, Nicole Renenberg. And so I was able to shadow her for a short period and decided that I kind of wanted to follow a path similar to her. So I had to make a difficult decision in 2015 whether or not to play my 5th year of soccer or to go to Mount Royal. So I was the last year that it was a combined program with the U of R. So I went to Mount Royal 2015, 2016, came back to U of R, played my final year of soccer, and also completed my field work at the U of R, and then just transitioned into working as a casual employee there. And now I'm actually covering a mat leave. So both of our full-times, the assistant and head AT, are on mat leave. So it's just myself for another month and a half until the other girl is back. Other than that, yeah, that's keeping me busy. I've worked with the Notre Dame hockey team, done a lot of field work, but yeah, U of R has been kind of my primary home for the last 3.5 years.
Awesome. We really appreciate you being here, taking the time out. And I know this was a little bit troublesome to get on here, but we got you here, so appreciate you being here. And I'm sure that's, if nothing else, a hugely deep learning experience for you as well. While everybody's out, you get to fill in a full-time headship position, fairly new to the game in that regard, but you'll learn a lot. So look forward to hearing your insight here as we move through tonight, and definitely moving forward as you get your feet wet there and get settled in. So let's keep going. Let's head east. We're going over to Carlo at University of Winnipeg. Carlo, you there, man?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
No, I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thank you. It's really fun. So I graduated in 2016 at the University of Winnipeg. I was actually a student under Andrew Grant, so he's going to be one of the most influential people in my life.
Big words.
So my journey into athletic therapy is actually quite interesting. I originally wanted to go into education, and then I was playing for the college team for volleyball at the University of Winnipeg, and I got hurt, and then that's how I met my supervisory athletic therapist, Robin Edge, and then that's how I kind of got started with it. When I was going through the program, I started working as a lab demo and helping out as much as I could, and then I kind of just kept going until after I certified. So right now I'm currently teaching a lot, some labs, and I've taught some courses at the University of Winnipeg, and it's been really great. I currently work as a therapist at the University of Winnipeg as well. I'm seeing the general population, and I work at another clinic. My involvement with sports, I've been all over the place. My biggest sport that I've been involved in is hockey. So AAA hockey, I started with them as a student, and then once I certified, I became the head athletic therapist for all of AAA hockey here in Winnipeg. And so I was overlooking that, and kind of being in a different role with that was actually quite interesting. And then I'm also part of the board for our association here in Manitoba, and that's really interesting. So it's been pretty exciting that way. So yeah, that's really how I got here. And it's unexpected because I want to be a teacher, which I'm kind of doing. So
yeah, it sounds like you've tied that in nicely, and we really appreciate you being here. We'll get to know a little bit more about you as we go, and the time change, you connected on the time change. So nice work there. I was trying to work backwards. There's no way I could have figured it out. So I'm glad you did. Appreciate it. Let's keep going. Let's go to Ontario. We have Nadine Smith from Carleton. Nadine, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right.
I feel really old listening to when people graduated their undergrads and their therapy degrees. Okay, so I'm Nadine. I've been at Carleton since 1999. Certified since 2000. The way I got there is I did my undergrad in human kinetics at U Ottawa, so rival school. And then after I finished my undergrad, I went to York and did a 3-year athletic therapy certificate program. So started at Carleton working, 3 months, $3,000. That's it, working my tail off. And everybody knows, everybody's been there. And, eventually now I'm the head therapist. I have been since, I can't even remember how long it's been, but it's been, I think, 16 years I've been the head AT. And dabbled a little bit in doing a master's and intervention and consultation and kind of sports psych, but not sports psych. And and then just trying to keep active and keep learning all the time.
All right. Well, we really appreciate you being here, and you look younger than everybody that's been on so far. So keep it up, whatever you're doing, keep going. And every time, no offense to anybody else, but Nadine's a go-to for me. We've run into each other a number of times unexpectedly, and then a couple other times fairly expectedly at national soccer things and some other things. And every time I run into Nadine, there's always good stories and there's always good connection there. So don't get too much into the West Coast, but appreciate you being here. And I know you got lots going on there, and your experience is not to be undermined at all. You've done a huge job. You've done so much there in the Ottawa region, and everybody respects everything that you do. So, and we really appreciate you being here this evening. So we'll just keep coming. We're coming back around to you because I know you got lots to share, and just as everybody else does. But really appreciate you being here, and we're moving over to Quebec now with Andy Grant from Bishop's University. Jump in, man.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate you putting the call out. When you first asked me to come on, I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm really the right person for this from Quebec, because Bishop's is an English school, and I really think it would have been good to have a person whose French is a little better than mine in here. But here I am. So my introduction to athletic therapy was a little bit later. After high school, I took a couple years and entered the workforce. Wasn't super fulfilled, and then kind of thought, well, I was, really into sports when I was younger, and competed at a pretty high level as a fencer, and then kind of retired from that, and decided that, maybe going into something that would be tied into athletics would be a good idea. So I started in kin, did that for 3 years, left, came back to university, went into AT after an injury of my own, and I thought, hey, it'd be really good if I knew how to fix this kind of stuff. So it was kind of an injury of my own, and meeting an athletic therapist that kind of got me interested in it. So I did my education at the University of Winnipeg. What up, Carlo? Good to see you on here. And a couple other UW alums I saw in the names there. So I did my education there, graduated, went into private practice. Again, wasn't super fulfilled because I really enjoyed the team atmosphere at the USports level, and then decided I wanted to go back into USport. So I was offered a position at the University of Winnipeg, and got to work with a bit with some of the teams and with the general population. And then when that contract ended, they kind of reorganized their clinic. And so I started looking further afield and wound up at Bishop's, originally on a 3-month contract, and now it's been 4 years. I started as, one of the contract therapists, kind of just stuck around, became the assistant therapist, and middle of February, I took over as the head athletic therapist for Katrina Lambert, who just had a baby. So yeah, weird timing to take over as head therapist, but there you go.
Awesome, man. Appreciate you being here, sharing your story, and I'm sure everybody is looking forward to hearing a little bit more about your path and your insight as a former high level athlete and workforce and all these kinds of things. And timing's come up a couple of times already in terms of job openings and being in the right place and having a background with wherever it is that you're currently working. So some themes for the audience and for me and for everybody else, but appreciate you being here, Andy, as always, man. You've been a popular guest, a participant throughout the Let's Chat sessions to date, and to have you on is a great honor for me too. So appreciate you being here, and I'm ready to keep making our way east. So let's head over to Curtis. Curtis, are you there?
I am here. Hi,
all right,
everybody.
Man. Jump in, man. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for getting us set up and organized, James. It's awesome opportunity. And hi, everybody. So I'm Curtis. I'm the head athletic therapist at Acadia University. I'm originally from PEI, so I grew up there in a little French community. Didn't want to kind of continue with the French schooling, so ended up choosing actually to go to Acadia University, where I did my undergrad there in kinesiology. And luckily enough, through my kinesiology degree there, I got to be a part of the sport injury assessment and management program, which is a very awesome program that helps me out a lot now. But when I was a student, I got to work with the men's hockey team there at Acadia, and got to be mentored by Dr. Jim McLeod. And from that time, I knew I wanted to do athletic therapy. Once I graduated from Acadia, I moved off across the country a little bit and made it out to Calgary at Mount Royal, where I did my undergrad there, graduated in 2015. And from there, spent 3 years in Lethbridge, Alberta, as assistant therapist at University of Lethbridge, as well as the head therapist at Lethbridge College. And then luckily enough, I got to take my mentor's position at Acadia 2 years ago after Jim left or moved on to be more professor side after 37 or 38 years. So kind of getting the new clinic going and getting things organized a little bit and working to get the AUS athletic therapy a little bit better.
All right, man. Awesome. What a cool story to sort of jump in and probably a little bit intimidating in terms of filling your mentor's shoes and coming back full circle back to a sort of, where you got things started. So really cool. Look forward to hearing from you this evening. And as I'm sure everybody does, and appreciate your time being here, man. Thank you so much. We're going to keep heading east. Let's head over to, I don't know. I think I messed up my geography. But anyway, Jocelyn, you want to say hello?
No, Nova Scotia is definitely not
Yeah. You know what? I mapped it in as people signed up, I think is what happened. And then I put it in a PDF, and I'm technology inefficient or ineffective. So blame me for that. I do know my Canadian geography, but I think I might have flipped it. Anyway, all right, Jocelyn, you're up.
That's all right. Maritimes are pretty much all one province anyway, so
we're all one AT family. That was the goal here.
That's right. Hi everybody, I'm Jocelyn Dowling. I'm the head athletic therapist at Mount Allison University. I've been fortunate enough to be there. This was my 15th year as head therapist there, so it's been a really great run. When I first went to university, I went to University of Guelph. And I had absolutely never heard of athletic therapy, didn't know anything about it. There certainly were not any athletic therapists around where I was from, let alone the Maritimes at all. If we're lucky, I don't think there would have been any. So when I went to University of Guelph, I was in the sports injury management program and was one of the Guelphies. So I managed to get through in the Guelph-Sheridan connection. And it was really just through meeting Gunnar and working in that clinic with Gunnar and Judy and really just meeting people along the way who were so passionate about it. That was one of the first things I noticed about the AT world, is that the people that were in it were extremely in it. And it was catchy. It was awesome. So I went on from there to Sheridan. I did my couple years at Sheridan, and I came back out east. I'm from out east, so Ontario was big and a lot, and I was quite happy to head back out east to kind of settle down. And it was definitely a challenge because at that point, I think I settled back out east in about 2003. And even at that point, there were not many of us around at all. So I, tried to make some contacts. I reached out to physio clinics and any doctors in the area who would be willing to listen to me, and just tried to kind of make some contacts there. I was fortunate enough to get an assistant job at Mount A, and then from there just worked my way in. So it was definitely a challenge out in a small town world, but it's worth it. The benefits, the small tight community, they're really worth the benefit. So I've really enjoyed my run out here.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you. I know you have a lot of family obligations and lots of things going on in these downtimes too. So really appreciate you taking the time to be here, and all your experience and knowledge and your understanding of how things go out there on the East Coast, I'm sure is appreciated by many, and you can share lots of stories and how you've gotten to, be as successful as you are, and care for the number of athletes and humans and interactions that you've had over your career. So really appreciate you being on, and look forward to hearing you as we keep going through here. All right, and then last but not least, Krista, you are up. Say hello and give us your rundown of where you are and how you got there.
Hi everyone, thanks for having me. And Nadine, I'm pretty up there in age too, so don't single yourself out there. I'm the head athletic therapist at Memorial University in Newfoundland, Labrador. I have been there, I believe, almost 14 years. So how I got there, I did my undergrad at UNB, and at the time that was called sports science. Went on from there, and in what year was that? 96. Went to Sheridan College, and that was a 3-year certificate. Had to have an undergrad to get in at the time, so I really didn't know that athletic therapy was what I was pursuing. So while I was at UNB, I was an athlete myself, and had gotten a lot of treatment. The therapist that I was going to was Joe Glenn. He at the time was a certification candidate, kind of still, but an athletic therapist. I had no idea that that's what he was going to be or whatever. Thought it was a physio. So I went to him and said, Joe, can you give me a reference? I'm applying to physio school. Krista, why wouldn't you think of athletic therapy? I was like, what's that? 4 years at UNB, I really had no idea, even after going in for treatment all the time. So big eye opener. And of course, I applied, went to Sheridan, did 3 years there, had great mentors there. Moved out west as soon as I graduated, took a job with Ergo Risk. I don't know if anyone's heard of that, but worked in a pulp and paper mill while I was trying to get ready for my certification, because at the time, back when we were in it, you had to wait a long time to do your certification. So you had to do written first, and then you had to pass that, and then you wait 6 months to do the practical side of things. So I worked at Ergo Risk, and I was there for about 8 months, and it wasn't quite what I was excited about. So I took a job with the Penticton Panthers junior A hockey team. So moved to Okanagan. So at first I was on the island, Victoria, Vancouver Island. Went over to the Okanagan. While I was getting ready to start there, who I had done a lot of placement work with, Don Fuller, he had gotten a job with the Minnesota Wild. So he was like, Krista, get your resume in, and I was like, oh my God, I don't know. Am I ready for that? So anyway, I did. I got the job, worked at UVic for 5 years. And then I took my maternity, moved back home to Newfoundland, where I grew up in Labrador, and had my maternity. Then I trying to see, if I really wanted to be back home, or if I was wanting to be at UVic for extended period of my life. And it just so happened that when I was there, my friend who was working at MUN, she wanted to leave and go back to New Brunswick or Nova Scotia. Anyway, I lucked into getting the head therapist job at Memorial then as well. So I had started my master's at UVic, and then I had to continue if I wanted to finish it. Actually, I'm probably the longest person doing the master's in history. It did take me 7 years. I had, 2 kids in between there and whatever, but Nadine actually was one of my subjects for my my interviewing. But other than that, yeah, I've been at MUN now for almost 14 years and enjoying it, loving it, and glad to be on the East Coast now.
Yeah, awesome. Well, it's great to have you, and your story, although unique to you, kind of echoes a lot of the stories here. People found a place, they found something they liked, or they found home early, moved away, got some experience, and came back around. A large percentage of the panel on here this evening has had the opportunity to come back or to settle down eventually. A lot of us in the AT world, we start out of the gates doing 6 or 7 things, or not being at home or being on the road a lot of the time, and then eventually the opportunity does come back around to settle. You also talk about some things that are really relevant to these COVID times right now, with having to wait a long time to do exams. Unfortunately, the candidates to date, the candidates currently are waiting to do their exam. As things move towards a return, we hope they'll be able to do that, and then we'll have some more colleagues in the field here shortly. And I don't know, I just find a lot of commonalities with everybody's story, and definitely I think everybody's touched on they've had 1 or 2 solid mentors that they could always come back around to. Everybody had a lot of good positive experience with passionate individuals, and this is it. And this is, for me, the MO of doing these chats, is to drive that passion, drive that awareness, and just connect with people that we may not have connected with in the past, and to share our stories as we go. And there's a fairly decent crowd on here tonight listening, but even beyond that, just starting the dialogue, and hopefully, meeting somebody or hearing somebody that you really connect with. We're going to lose about 15 people from the audience after this question, so let's get it out of the way, and so they can leave if they want to. We'll start from the East Coast. So Krista, we'll start with you, and then we'll go back. West. Are you watching Tiger King or no? Yes or no?
I did watch it, yes.
Okay.
What else are you going to ask me?
All right. Jocelyn, how about you?
Absolutely. Totally watched it.
Okay. Curtis, what you got?
I think I watched it on the first day it came out. Yeah.
All right. Andy?
Yeah, binged it over 2 days with my girlfriend through Netflix party.
Well done. Nadine?
No, I have not seen it at all.
All right. Carlo?
I was getting worried. I have not seen it at all as well.
All right. Nice. Racquel, how about you?
I can agree. I've not seen it either.
Nice. TJ, yourself?
I've gotten through 4 episodes, and I think after the last one, my wife fell asleep, so I think she's done. So if I have to watch it, it's on my own now.
You got to find extra time, huh?
Yeah.
Kev, how about you?
Yeah, we binged it over 2 or 3 days, I think, my wife and I. You don't think it can get any worse, and then you watch the next episode and you're like, how is this even possible?
There we go.
So.
All right. So I think we got 6 yeses and 3 nos. So for everybody who's tallying, we'll add that to the YouTube score that's a running tally in the discussion area of each one of these Let's Chat sessions. So 6 yeses and 3 nos. That brings it. I think that brings it into a virtual tie. I think it was 7 yeses and 10 nos coming in. So if my scoreboard and my math is correct, that's 13 and 13 now as we move forward. All right, we're out at you. We sort of snaked there back. Let's alternate questions just so we're not hearing and talking the same things. Kev, let's start with you. Toughest rehab scenario to date, and what made it tough for you? Doesn't have to be in depth, but maybe a few little details, and let's chat on that.
Yeah, sure. As all of us have been through so many different injuries, I'm sure there's some gruesome ones and things out there, but this one wasn't really anything, like the injury itself wasn't that bad. It was I think it was the athlete that went through it and the psychological impact it had on them. They were a volleyball player, and it was just out for a dig, dislocated shoulder. This particular player had a history of CrossFit in her younger years, and a lot of the whole mobility stability debate, a lot of mobility in her shoulders, but not a lot of stability at those end ranges. And I think that's what led to that dislocation. Anyways, she had surgery, had a Bankart repair, and was in a 90-degree external rotation brace for the winter over Christmas, went back to Edmonton and slipped on some ice, fell, and busted open, like basically the surgical repair. Her shoulder was black and blue, and she was obviously devastated. We tried to calm her down. You know, it's going to be okay. Let's pragmatically work our way through this and get to see the surgeon. Well, anyways, she completely blew out that surgery. There was no way of salvaging it. So she basically was another. They wanted to do another surgery. They wanted to do what's the name of it? A ladder jet procedure, which is when they take a piece of bone from the coracoid process and move it up to the glenoid to actually give a bony block. But the one other surgeon, they want to get second opinions, and the other surgeon said, no, don't do it. One surgeon said, yes, do it. So she was kind of torn between that, and she was an up-and-coming, star player and had a really breakout season her first year, and it was really devastating for her just to watch her go through that psychological, the challenges that you go through when you're given all the different information, and you have surgeons telling you one thing, and another surgeon telling you something else, and so she eventually had to. She decided not to go for the ladder jet procedure and decided to go conservatively, and slowly built some scar tissue up by. She was told not to use her arm for 6 months, so she basically had her arm in a sling for 6 months. And she is a right-handed individual. It was a right hand, so that was obviously very challenging for her while also in school. And she was a very high-achieving, in her academics. So she just went through so much, and you just feel for individuals like that. And I think that the most challenging aspect was not the rehabilitation piece. It was more so the psychological piece and the mental things that they go through, and how you deal with those things. And I think in our schooling, we don't get a lot of that. At least I found that. And you're kind of learning on the fly a little bit, and trying to team up with sports psychologists and trying to learn a little bit from them and how you navigate those waters. Very, very tricky. So, I mean, that was probably one of the most challenging ones I've ever dealt with.
Yeah, I with you 100%. Sometimes the rehabs are so much more involved beyond the actual physical and the movement, the range of motion, the pain control, these kinds of things. That's a great talking point, and it brings up a lot of things that I think we can all do a little bit better, and we can encourage, referrals for the mental health component if we're not competent or qualified enough, which most of us aren't, but some of us are. And they're starting to build in mental health training into a lot of facilities now, both at the pro level and then trickling down into the university setting, which is nice to see. And it's a massive part of it. So appreciate you touching on that and sharing the rehab story as well. As it refers to shoulders, I spent a lot of time with overhead athletes, and not a lot of those surgeries get back the way that they feel they should anyway, after surgery. So if it can be done conservatively, where it's not need to be done right away, or an emergent type surgery, then sometimes you're better off with those longer discussions. And the other point that you bring up, I think that's really important for all of us as ATs, is to sort of help navigate what's coming in for the athlete, help discern what surgeon speak is, or what's good, what's bad, what these actually, understanding what the surgeries actually mean and what the rehabs could look like. So a lot of good stuff from you on that. So really appreciate that. And it just sparks a lot in my head, understanding and understanding all aspects of rehab. So appreciate it, man. And appreciate you sharing. Let's go to TJ. You know what? I'm going to stay right on this one, because I think there's so many interesting cases out there, and everybody sees toughest. That was up to each one of you to decide what made a situation tough, and I think it's awesome to hear individual perspective across the country. So TJ, how about you, man? Toughest rehab you've had to date?
I think when I was thinking about this one, it kept coming back to one of the ankle injuries that one of my hockey players had 2 years ago, and she was a redshirt goalie who just happened to toe pick when they were doing laps around the ice for conditioning, but she ended up getting ATFL as well as an AITFL second degree sprain, I believe. And the toughest part about going back for her wasn't so much the mental side, as Kevin was touching on, but she flew through the rehab. So within 2 months, she was perfect from what we could tell off the ice. But as soon as we got her on the ice, she was about 50%, which most of us would expect anyways. So we kept building that up. But even over the next 6 months, we couldn't figure out on how to stress the AITFL enough during rehab to lessen the pain when she was pushing off the post. So She could do plyo, she could do lateral hops, rotations, anything off ice. She can do everything in the strength and conditioning realm that we asked her to do. But as soon as she pushed off and just give that little extra rotation, she lost it. So thankfully she was a redshirt goalie at the time, and she was able to push through some of that pain. But even the goalie coaches were a little bit at a loss on what to do with her and how to get her back in without pulling her off for the next couple of months. With the first couple of months, we had her off the ice, and she progressed exponentially. But then, like I said, as soon as she twisted on that toe off the post, and that was the only movement that bothered her, she went down. So she kept aggravating it that way, and then she got a couple of surgical opinions, and nobody said that they would do anything for her because there's really nothing structurally wrong. And she got an MRI, and one of the physicians used the term sinus tarsi syndrome, which kind of got stuck in her head that that's what she had, and that there wasn't really much to do with that, and she'd have to live through it. And I guess we're going on 1.5 years now, and we're still picking away with her and managing her ice time. But that's probably been the toughest part. Through it all, mentally, she's been a rock star, which is kind of a saving grace. But physically, it's frustrating because you can't even push her that little extra bit. Yeah. Well, it sounds like an interesting case, and 1.5 years for any injury is, especially for somebody who's active, and a goalie that needs to do that movement on a regular basis. Yeah. It's the only thing, and it's tough to replicate, and it's tough to rehab from, and it's tough to do off the ice. So, similar situations in clinics and for athletes across the board, I'm sure for everybody listening and for every practitioner that's part of the panel, I can relate to a similar issue with a wrestler we had when I was working at York University, and she had similar type thing where it was only certain positions in her sport that would reproduce it. So we ended up getting to the point where it became a little bit of guesswork in terms of like making up a tape job, so to speak. And so you couldn't go to page 68 in the textbook and see do this tape job and you'll fix it or you'll make it better. And we got creative. And I remember having a bunch of students being like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm guessing here. We're doing a little bit of educated guesswork, and we're trying to situate tissue in a space that it can be a little bit less irritable during the movement." So yeah. Appreciate you sharing it, man. Sounds like a tough one. We had a great ankle and foot surgeon on who may be worth an email. I can get you his email, Dr. Desai. He was on here a couple weeks ago. So if you get on the YouTube channel, you can watch him speak on the Let's Chat sessions. And he is an ankle and foot trauma specialist. And if a surgical opinion is warranted, then he'd be the top guy. He's pretty cutting edge in terms of what he does and doesn't do, and not necessarily always cutting, if you know what I mean. He doesn't opt for surgery just for the sake of it. But maybe worth an opinion. So we could share resources after if you so choose. Let's keep making our way. Racquel, how about you? Toughest rehab you've been a part of to date?
All right. So for me, I'm going to go at it a little bit different for this one. So the toughest rehab situation for me was difficult because of the pressure and expectation that I put on myself. So at the U of R, our primary clientele is obviously the U of R Cougar and Rams athlete. But we also see general population. So I actually had a client referred to me from an exercise therapist that I know in the city. And the client was a 12-year-old girl. So already right there, it was a lot different than people that I had been used to treating. Both males and females at the U of R, obviously, they're coming out of high school. So we're looking at 17, 18-year-olds as opposed to 12. So the girl, she had fractured her tibia while playing ringette, and she had been casted for just short of 2 months. And she would actually had seen a physio for 4 months prior to coming to see me. And the mom was kind of just desperate for anything because her daughter at this point could barely stand on one leg. She had an antalgic gait and had just seen minimal improvement over those 4 months. So she came and saw me and we worked with her. So obviously right off the get-go, I kind of had to change and tailor the way I interacted with her in comparison to the athletes at the U of R. And so, yeah, just over 3.5 months later, I was able to discharge her. And it was actually pretty humbling because the mom had said, like, no, like, we'd really like to keep on coming. And I'm like, well, no, you don't really have to. Like, your daughter can walk. She's strong. Like, And so, yeah, it was very nice, like for both the mom and the daughter to hug me. And the mom was like, honestly, Racquel, we didn't know if our daughter would ever be able to walk normal again. And so, yeah, not that it was necessarily a hard rehab, but right out the get-go, not that I was doubting myself. I just, again, put a lot of pressure on myself because this friend had referred her to me and because of this lack of success she had had prior to seeing me.
Yeah, cool. What a cool take on it. And I don't think that is uncommon either. So you really tap into some other angles of rehab, where we always sort of want to get things done as quickly and efficiently and effectively as possible. And if it is a referral, then yeah, it's almost like you're being held to a higher standard. But sounds like you did a bang up job. Anyways, that's awesome. Thank you. Appreciate you sharing, and I appreciate the angle too. That's a great way of looking at a tough rehab too. So thank you. Carlo, we'll make your way to you, man. You Winnipeg, toughest rehab. What do you got?
Well, I guess for me, like, I'm still fairly new to the profession. I've only been doing it for about 3 years, and so it's actually one I'm currently seeing right now. She's a general population lady. She's 45 years old. The toughest part for me with her is that she's done everything you can think of: Reiki, acupuncture. She's seen a surgeon, multiple physios, multiple ATs, massage therapists. She's doing everything, and then she comes to me, and I'm just like, I'm still fairly new to this, like, so I'm already, just from there, I'm already quite intimidated by it, and I'm like, this can be a tough one. But part of it too is that she has been given a lot of drugs by the doctors as well, trying to mitigate her pain. And like, I can't even really get through a full session with her without her crying. And so now the doctors, so she was given lorazepam, and then apparently with those are very addictive. And then now they've told her, like, she has to kind of be like cold turkey, like, you can't have any. But now she's having a struggle, like, oh, you can't, like. So she's like, I'm used, lorazepam was the only thing I was using that was kind of giving me some comfort, and now, like, I'm not doing that. They're taking me away from it. And now I'm kind of like sitting there, I'm just like, okay, like, I can't get you to do anything I want you to do. And like, you've seen all these therapists, and so now I'm kind of just like here sitting kind of like, oh, this is going to be a tough one. And so my biggest problem with her is that, or maybe it's whatever, is that it's just a conversation. The way it just goes down quickly every time I get started. Like, I show up like, hey, how's it going? Like, such a beautiful day today. She's like, yeah, it just brings me down. She's like, can't go to sleep. Like, my back really hurts. And so now I'm kind of just like lost for like what I want to do with her. And so that's probably like the toughest one, because I just feel kind of helpless, and I feel for her because like she was telling me how she was very active and she's been dealing with it for the last 2 years. So for the last 2 years, she's been dealing with it. She's seen all kinds of therapists, been given all these drugs, and now there's this new guy that I'm kind of just like, I've been trying to read up on like pain management and stuff like that. And so right now, I hope that she would find comfort with what I tell her and the advice that I give her. She's only seen me like probably like 3-4 times, but like she kind of gives me a little bit like, yeah, I kind of felt better after the last treatment, but then it kind of goes straight back down because she's like getting dependent on the drugs that she was given. And so right now I'm talking to a lot of my friends. I'm like, what would you do with this? Because like right now, I don't know what to do. Like, should I just tell her that she can't see me and go see someone else? But like, that's where I'm at with her. So
yeah, that's a tough one out of the chute when you're early on, as well as when you're late in your career too. So I could sit here and try to advise you on it a little bit. I'm sure there's some people that are listening that could advise you on it. But the one piece of advice that I will always stick to is just stick to your scope of practice, stick to what you know, stick to what you're comfortable with. And if you're not comfortable in a situation, refer on, or do no harm. Those are the basic principles. When you're not quite sure. At the same time, I would encourage you to do your best to not be intimidated by all the people that she's seen. She's come to you, not necessarily out of desperation, but because something didn't work there. So look for the positives.
She was
try
actually
to identify the things that have worked.
She was actually referred to to me by one of my clients that I met like years ago. And so she's like, you gotta see this guy. So there's another thing too, like, okay, like, gotta take care of this because, like, you know, like someone else referred it. So yeah.
Yeah. So hang on your foundation. That's all I can advise. You know,
Yeah.
don't get worried about putting too much pressure on yourself. You know what you know, you do what you can do. I had a client just like this that was outside of the university. It was a private client. She had insurance through her work and her husband's work, and I saw her at her condo building, and she would never get better. Same thing, a whole bunch of people she'd seen, and then somehow she came across me, and we worked together for a long time, and then I was moving away, and I referred her to somebody else, and I reached back to see how things were going, and things just steadily, you know, nothing is linear. Always remember that too. You're not going to get somebody better from A to B on a straight linear line. So ups and downs happen, and it's just where can we make that tick upward as you go. So stick with it. We could chat on this. Email me after. We can chat. I got some ideas. All right, perfect, cool. And if anybody else does, maybe you throw your email up there, and they could reach out to you too. So Nadine, how about you? Carleton, your toughest rehab to date?
I actually didn't know what I was going to talk about until Kevin started talking. So thanks, Kevin. So I think that I was trying to think of, the most traumatic injury or whatever, but I actually think the toughest rehab is the one where I've learned the most. And I kind of always go back to like the first kind of chronic concussive patient that I had. And all of the things that he went through with regards to, you know, his depression, anxiety, dropping out of school, you know, coming to me, like, and again, like Kevin, as you said, and James, as you said, you know, in school, we don't learn, at least when I went to school, remember a long time ago, we didn't learn a lot about, we learned a little bit about being psychologically ready to go back into sport, but we didn't necessarily tap into, like, you know, athletes that may have mental health needs, you know, and that was, I'd say that was the toughest, because it was, you know, a huge learning curve for me, just like when when you have an injury that you've never rehabbed before, but, you know, just gathering the resources and gathering like the protocols, and, you know, making sure that you're supporting the athlete as they're going through this, but also making sure that you're supporting yourself too, right? Because, you know, as healthcare providers, we take a ton of stuff home with us, and, you know, it can really start to wear you down. So when I think of the toughest rehab, that's what I kind of go back to. I have to say, this guy, he's like finishing med school. It was like really, really, really rough road for him for a while, but he's finishing med school, and he's doing amazing now. But it was, you know, like a very, very sticky situation for a while.
Yeah, and you talk about a lot of scenarios, I think, that are probably common practice in terms of tough rehabs. You know, the long-term concussive case, the psychological detriment from injury. You know, the loss of identity has come up a few times with guests that we've had on at the end of careers, whether injured or not. All these things that we need to take on, and then what we take on as therapists, absolutely true. You know, if we don't take care of number one, which is ourself, regardless of what anybody else says. If we don't take care of ourselves, it makes it a whole lot harder to take care of anybody else. And you touch on a few that have been, you know, really difficult to date. I remember a guy walking into our clinic at York University who wasn't a student, but he'd been referred because I was, quote unquote, the shoulder guy, because I had worked with baseball for a little while. And I geek out on the shoulder like you wouldn't believe. But he walked in, and he was in his 60s at the time. He had worked for the Toronto Maple Leafs in a different realm in the performance field. And he walked in, and he had surgery, or was about to have surgery actually for a repair that I had never even researched. So I said, sure, taking it on like, yeah, I'll do this, but then panic big time. And it was a total reverse shoulder replacement. So that's where they invert the shoulder from, golf ball on tee to tee on golf ball with the humeral head and things like that. So, and he was older, and he had a big career behind him in terms of his profession and all these things. And we stack a lot onto ourselves to try and make, what are we going to do? How are we going to prove this? Plus his background was in sports psych. So I was like, this guy's analyzing everything I'm saying right now. I don't know what's going on. But ultimately had some good people to talk to and did a lot of research on the surgery and came back around to the idea that, same thing as Carlo had mentioned, same thing as a bunch of therapists across the country have mentioned already is sticking with what doing what you can do and referring outward when necessary and always coming back around to make sure you're okay with it as well. So appreciate you sharing, and I think that goes a long way, that all the lessons that you shared there too. So Andy, let's make our way to Bishops. How about you, man?
There's two that come to mind, and I'll start with one. The other one's a pretty quick one. So when I was working in private practice, I'd been maybe at my first job for maybe 3 months, and somebody booked into my schedule, and it was a patient that had been in a car crash, and I did not realize the extent of the injuries until they came in to the clinic. So they had multiple fractures, multiple rib fractures, fractured clavicle. It had to have emergency surgery to close up some internal bleeding. And it was heavy. I think he also had a patellar fracture that was minor and stable. But anyways, I took a look at this guy and was just like, I am not the person for this. This is not for me. This is way outside of like what I'm comfortable with. And the guy essentially said, he's like, look, I don't have the capacity to go anywhere else because you're the closest to my place, and I don't have a car anymore, and I have to walk. And he was a young guy in a tough position financially, at a young family, and I guess the money that he'd gotten from the car that had been totaled was basically put towards trying to keep his family afloat. And so this was being covered through insurance, and he's like, you're the closest thing, man, like I got nothing else. And I was like, oh boy, that's a little bit of pressure. Okay. And so I was at a complete loss as to where to start because there was so much going on. And I was kind of like, okay, well, we're gonna work on how you breathe now. That's gonna be where we're gonna start, because all this upper chest breathing and everything else. I got to mention that the surgery that they did for the internal bleeding left him really stuck over, and there was a ton of scar tissue that had formed, and so he couldn't actually like extend all the way up. So there was just a host of stuff that was going on. And I did a lot of reading to try and figure out, what's going to be the best course of action to take with this guy. And again, we progressed, and things, it was we were having ups and downs. And again, there was a lot of psychosocial stuff that was going on because, again, of his financial situation and kind of his living situation was not all that great. And there was a bunch of other stuff going on there. So that was also, I ended up taking a lot of that stuff home with me as well. But I just felt like I really had to do my best to help this guy. And we came out the other side looking really, really good, which I was happy to say. We by the end, we were doing all sorts of stuff. We were, doing all sorts of body weight stuff, pressing, we were squatting, we were doing things. He could stand up straight, he could breathe in properly, and it was really stressful in the early days, and then we just worked at it and chipped away at it little piece by piece, and worked on this and worked on that and worked on this, and over about 5 or 6 months we got him back to doing stuff, and he was able to go and get a job and help to provide for his young family. And so that was really tough because there was just so much going on, and having to kind of deal with kind of multiple injuries all at once was a challenge. And then the other one that really comes to mind is at an athlete that had a cardiac event. And so that was scary as hell, right? You always hope never to be in that kind of position.
Yeah, no doubt.
And then that, it turned out great, fantastic. But the athlete had to have surgery to correct, I guess, some electrical issues in his heart. And again, with that one, I just felt super helpless because it was nothing I could really do other than support him while he kind of waited for surgery, and he was uncertain about what his future looked like in athletics. And I know that that's something that, some of the other people touched on. And so that was tough, but again, happy to say that athlete is back out the other side and doing great, performing well, and no problems. But again, it was the feeling of helplessness and that there was nothing that I could do to help him. That was really tough in the early stages of that.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing, man. Two really in-depth stories that we don't necessarily get the proper preparation for, but they can come up, and you come back to really complicated cases, and what am I going to do? I'm being, a little bit overwhelmed by all the avenues that you could take, and you come back to breathing. That's what everybody needs to do, and that's what controls the nervous system, and that's what will always respond. And always help the mind respond. So Carlo might be worth talking to somebody, maybe talking to Andy on this one, or somebody that does a lot of breath work, or some, really looking at sort of full breath, either yogic breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, these kinds of things to sort of look at the nervous system a little bit more and down regulate and up regulate what needs to be done in order to really make a difference. Maybe not by putting hands on or doing the coolest exercise out there, but doing the thing that is foundational to everything else that every human needs to do. So some really good stuff there. And you talk about cardiac stuff, and we prepare for it, as ATs, and in school we read about it, and it's that one little part of the chapter that you read about these things that don't really happen, and you breeze over it until it happens. And we had an offensive lineman get to a pretty scary situation in a really sub-threshold drill, and his resting heart rate was at 220, and we had same thing. We had to get him taken care of. We had to cover the field while that was going on. We had to get him in. We had to call an ambulance. We had to talk to the paramedics about actually taking his pulse and getting him an EKG in the ambulance so that we could catch it while it was happening, because once it stopped happening, it's a ghost. You can't chase that thing around. And the paramedics at the time when we called them, one of them didn't want to do anything. So this guy's fine. He's talking. He's lucid. Everything's fine. He's telling us what's going on. So what do we need to do? And the other guy said, let's put him in. We'll put him on an EKG. And then thanked me and thanked our therapy staff for getting him on an EKG, because it was 220, and that's not normal for any offensive lineman to be sitting at rest at 220. So these things do happen. So it's preparing for the worst case scenario. Again, we've touched on this with, I think, just about every therapist that's been on. It's being prepared for the worst, and if you have to enact or act in those scenarios, you're prepared for it. You hope not to, but you're as prepared as you can be. So appreciate you sharing, man, and let's keep moving over to Curtis. You're next, man. Toughest rehab from any angle you so choose.
Sure. This kind of perfect segue by saying, be prepared for the worst case scenario. But this one, I don't know if anybody could be prepared for. It was just a couple of years ago now. A women's soccer player, one of our best defenders that we had, first year young athlete, and she came in, and I found out, just before the season, I guess I found out that she had, I don't even know how to say it properly, I don't think, but Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. So for anybody that doesn't know what that is, it's basically a connective tissue disorder. So frequent dislocations of any joint, you name it, it's probably dislocated. So this athlete, like I said, very good soccer player, would frequently dislocate ankles, shoulders, ribs, wrist, so on. And oftentimes, she would wake up and her shoulder would be dislocated. As we got further into the season, mixed in fatigue and everything like that, school, this athlete just started dislocating things she hadn't dislocated before. Like, she would normally dislocate one of their shoulders, and then the other shoulder started dislocating, and from that came the pain of it, and very different situation from a normal dislocation with this individual, and same thing with ankles, patellar dislocation, stuff like that. So even pelvis a couple times, that she told me, but I never got to see that. But she would always put them back into place, and really rehab, I didn't know where to go with it. I had no idea, I never heard of it, stuff like that. So again, something I couldn't necessarily prepare for, but what I did, I started reaching out to a bunch of people, seeing if anybody knew of anybody who was an athlete with this. And finally, I had just finished a fascial stretch therapy course not long before, and one of the instructors actually had Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. So I got lucky there and was able to communicate with this instructor, and thankfully got a little bit of information, stuff like going back to breathing and whatnot, but also in range for her was dislocation, right? So it's kind of empty end fields all the time, rather than any other end field. So very difficult. We had to work within a comfortable range and try not to dislocate things. Oddly enough, a lot of tape that season, some foam pads to try to hold her ribs in place. It was very interesting. The athlete's no longer with us, but yeah, it was quite the adventure on that one.
Yeah. One of those that, again, that small section of special case demographic injuries that you read about in maybe first year AT or first year kin, and you breeze over it and refer back. And again, you bring up a good point that everybody else has touched on to a certain degree, and that's where it's outside of your scope. You have the opportunity to educate yourself, but while you're educating yourself, you need a network, and sometimes just asking somebody, and there's 3 people removed, you find somebody that might be able to help out a little bit, or has seen it before, or just so happens has the syndrome, or has at least dealt with it, or has a practitioner that might be appreciate you putting that in the chat box, to look up for everybody, and just networking and talking these things through as a profession and as professionals. I think practitioners more than anybody, ATs definitely like to converse on things and talk about resources, and talk about how to find solutions, or just who they might know that can help out. And it's a very open forum and an open space, and that's what I've really enjoyed about these chats to date as well, is just getting to know people like you, who you and I have maybe had a conversation here and there, but don't know each other well enough. But after this, I'm sure like I said, I'll foot the bill at the next conference when we get there. To a maximum, and and sometimes it's just as simple as asking. When you're not comfortable, you got to ask, and it also comes down to what you don't know, and you got to go to somebody who does. So my most recent example of this is we're flying over from NASA 2 days ago into Fort Lauderdale, and we're flying in an 8-seater, but I go to get in the plane, and all 8 seats are filled. So the guy who's loading the plane says, "Here, jump up in the co-pilot chair, and you're going to ride there." And I am not a good flyer to begin with. So then he gets in, and I don't know if anybody's familiar with like a propeller plane, propeller on the front, propeller on the wings. You're flying at 10,000 feet, but you have all these dials in front of you, and I'm looking and I'm hearing the clanking as gears are shifting and locking into place, and like elevating as elevation goes up by like 20 feet. I'm seeing the thing tick up. Every time the pilot looks somewhere, I'm following where his eyes are, like it's a highway and there's going to be another freaking plane coming at us. And I just, when we got to the end, I was like, my diaphragmatic, I don't know where my diaphragm was. It was attached to the top of my skull, because I did not breathe, I don't think, on that flight. But when we landed, I just looked at him and I said, like, I'm glad you knew what you were doing, because if anything, but then I was also thinking, like, as an AT, as somebody who's in this field, like, if anything had happened on that plane, I didn't know where the button was to call somebody. Like, he was a good guy. He was a younger guy, but like, I don't know, he could have had something could have happened in the air, and nobody else on that plane knew what to do, but we refer on and do these things and be just prepared as possible. That one I was not prepared for. I'll never co-pilot a plane again in my life, but we made it, and you made it, and you reached out. And I think that's the key lesson, and finding people that can help you as the person who's trying to help somebody else has been the common theme across the country so far. So appreciate you sharing. Jocelyn, you're up.
All right. Yeah, mine is similar, I think, to Nadine. I think over the years, I mean, we've seen lots of injuries and been through lots of protocols, and I think the ones that tend to stick in your mind are, the ones that maybe don't follow a linear path like we expect them to, or the ones that just kind of like get like right inside you, and they just kind of like leave you unsettled, or they just don't sit well. So just this past year, I've been dealing with a female hockey player, and it was just one of these injuries that it was the perfect storm of everything worst case scenario could happen. So, it was first an unreported concussion. The coach was very, very non-compliant, signed the waiver on our concussion policy on awareness and recognition and reporting, and failed to report something that happened in practice. So then a week and a half later, we're dealing with a very significant second impact syndrome. So just like a super complex, concussion history going on. We get her in the clinic, and Fortunately enough, from the manual side of things, she's better off than what you would expect, so we're doing some manual therapy and managing a little bit of whiplash and what you can expect, some vestibular therapy. But it was really, the emotional side of things, a history of mental illness that she had that was undisclosed. It was, education support systems that we needed to tie into the mix. It was everything. So it was a really challenging year. She didn't return to the sport, and we got to the end of the season and basically had to tell her that she will not return to the sport. But she had just, a real significant history. And, at one point too, I remember kind of getting to a point with seeing her, multiple times a week, and she's in, which almost feels more like counseling, and I'm not a counselor. I'm doing as much as I can with her hands on, but it's really just because she can lie in my bed and talk, and she feels good and feels safe. And so you kind of start to wonder, like, how much am I actually doing here, and we had pulled in lots of other resources. She was seeing a counselor for academic supports. She was seeing a physician. She was just newly medicated for depression. She was seeing a psychologist, so she was getting that support. And finally, we almost just had to take a step back and simplify and said, we're doing too much. This poor girl is literally getting it from all sides. She had so much going on. She was struggling. She just felt like she couldn't get a grasp of anything and felt like she was failing in all aspects instead of just trying to really focus. So I think for her, when we finally, were able to say, like, you're not going back this season, like during the season, we made it pretty clear as soon as we were comfortable, you're not going back this season. Let's salvage the year. Educationally, her professors were awesome, and they were really good at giving her a program that she could actually do, not in class and not too much and not, exams in the gymnasium, things like that. And we just had to simplify, like I said, she would come in and we'd do a little bit of manual therapy or a little bit of myofascial stuff, and she would just feel better. And it was, kind of decompressing. And it was tough to try to, you think of everything you should be attacking and you want to do it all at once, all at the same time, and just, try to do everything to help. But sometimes less is more, and you've got to let it take that natural progressions, even though it's not the speed an athlete wants, and it's never fast enough for an athlete. So she was just, one that we still, she's coming back next year. She's not going to be playing hockey, and it's something that she'll struggle with, probably for the rest of her life, dealing with mental illness that, was present there before, but it's definitely going to have lasting effects now, and that will change her projection here on out. So it's just a little unsettling when you see cases like that.
Yeah, no doubt. And those long-term concussions with the, although, negative for the most part, there's a lot of positive to that as well, in that it's revealed a lot of the underlying things that were previously undisclosed, that those can be addressed. And once those do get addressed, we tend to find a little bit more normalcy for that person. There's the other part of that is the identity of being a hockey player or an athlete that's now been removed, at least temporarily, that will play a role in that too. But I'm just kind of flipping through the screen as you're telling this story, and there's a lot of heads nodding. These are common things, and these are things that everybody can relate to. And I think for me, the priority always is to hear what it is you're doing as a team. And it sounds like you have the academic side nicely enhanced to help out. You have, coaches, and you have a support staff there to work with you, so you're not doing it all or being the bad guy or the good guy in terms of determining what's going to happen or what's not going to happen or when you're going to play or not play. And those are all huge conversations that are part of things that, again, we don't get the education on a regular basis, but through practice and through understanding the human first approach, you really address those things. And you cut through it, and you're exactly right. Like, we tend to jump on things and attack things like we're going to peel them away and then they're going to be gone when it comes to rehab. And a lot of the time we all do that. We have done it, and sometimes it takes some stepping back and saying, listen, like, we're doing far too much. And so I'm looking, I specifically turned my screen on when you started going down that path and was looking at you, Carlo, and just saying, like, you know, don't worry about everything that's been done or who they've seen or what, you know, what's been done that hasn't worked. Just strip it down and see what works. And sometimes lying on the table, that's all it takes. Finding somebody that you can trust and have that conversation with, you know, that's the beginning of something that is a whole lot more valuable. I had a great guest on this past week, Elena Luciani, and she was talking about, at the end of the day, it doesn't come down to reps, sets, or the amount of stim you've put on somebody's leg when you're rehabbing them. It comes down to the conversations you've had, the trust you build, and the relationship that you set up as you go along. And Jocelyn, you touched on so many points that are so valuable to therapists, to athletes, to everybody listening in here. I really appreciate the story, and I know everybody else does too. I just saw so many heads nodding with that story, myself included. You know, those long-term concussions, they're frustrating, and we try to do so much, and we try to like do everything that everybody's telling us to do with concussion, but every one of them is different. Every human being is different, and it comes down to, you know, stripping it down to what we can do, and the person in front of us. So really great insight on that one. And there's a giant spider crawling towards me, so pardon my hiccup. All right, not gonna let that thing come near me because I'm in a state that I don't know if it's poisonous. All right, and let's move, last but not least, Krista, you're up. Toughest rehab to date.
Well, again, kind of like Nadine, I wasn't going to go this route, but I think since we're kind of on this conversation, I'll start with this. We had an athlete that took their own life. Of course, then it became a community thing within our athletics department. We had a open door policy then for all the athletes. It was a shocking thing to obviously go through, but we wanted to make sure that our athletes knew that we were there for them, as we always are. But again, we're taught how do we deal with the psychology for return to play or things like that. Not with this type of thing, but of course we have built that type of rapport with our athletes. We have, at small schools, we only have so many athletes. So, we have that tight-knit type of thing going on. So anyway, I found that you kind of are talking to yourself and you're trying to say, like, what did I miss? Why didn't I see this? The person nobody saw this one coming. So it was very, very hard to understand. And I went over and over and over, situations in the clinic, like, why didn't I see this? How did I not, but again, we're therapists, and we can only do what we have in our scope. So, obviously we further put the athletes on to other resources and stuff like that. But I found that during that year, the athletes would come in, and again, they'd be on the table and they'd have an injury, but they more wanted to talk. They, you get them through their injury, but they were still wanting to come back. I had, more tears in those months after. It was really, really trying on myself, but like I can't imagine what the athletes themselves had gone through. So anyway, I wasn't even going to talk about that at all, but you guys kind of, I think it's important. I think dealing with mental health issues and things that can go on, it does happen. And, we do need to refer on, but we're their number one go-to. So we also have to be prepared and able to help them with those types of things as well. But my other one is, it's about a girl. She was a figure skater growing up. Then she became a runner, cross-country runner at university. Always had issues with her shins, saying, oh, everyone told me I had shin splints. So I've gone for treatment, 3 years. But when I'm running, she said, my foot goes to sleep. And she said, it used to be 1 foot, but now it's 2 feet. As soon as I stop running, I'm good. And she said, like, when she was a figure skater, same thing used to happen. She tried to, get through her program. She could barely feel her feet at the end, so she would lose control. She wouldn't be able to land on her jumps. So she was very, very frustrated. So anyway, we tried some therapy and whatever, and I came to the conclusion that this seems like compartment syndrome. But I had two doctors tell me, no, this is not compartment syndrome. So I was like, okay, well, let's just keep going. We'll keep rehabbing this and see where it goes. But then finally, a sports med doctor, which are very few and far between in Newfoundland, she had a look at her, and sure enough, she did the pressure test through the roof. Got her in, got her to do the fasciotomies, but they were scheduled for 2 separate times. And this is where it kind of takes a little turn. We're so excited, or we're going to get get this fixed or whatever. The doctor does both sides, the fasciotomy on both sides. Yes, it was very bizarre. Anyway, so you can imagine she's leaving the hospital. She's in a wheelchair. That's fine. But now, what on earth is so it was, obviously we laughed at first, but it did become like very psychological. And I had to deal with a lot with her trying to get her rehab. But it was funny, but yet not so funny. So that's my interesting take.
Yeah, a couple very different experiences, and when you talk about the latter case, just getting the referral and following your instinct and going down the MD path, and sometimes there's a little bit of knowledge about a lot of things, but there's not a lot of knowledge on those little things. And so when you can get them to a sport med doc that can really take a deeper look and get them to somebody and get the imaging that they need, you tend to find things that, your instinct or your training and your instinct combined really highlights. As a therapist, we see a lot of it, and, and you just kind of follow your gut, and you end up on the right track. Even if you over refer, you're never wrong, by referring. So, huge. And then your previous case, obviously we all feel that, and yeah, I'm sorry for your loss, and that one hits home on a number of levels. And if anybody's lost an athlete, lost somebody who's close to them, these things are super hard. They're hard as a human being. They're hard as a therapist. They're hard as a friend. They're hard as an athlete. They're hard as an intern. They're hard as, when you see these people or you hear about these things, and they hit home. And so it's checking in with everybody that needs to be checked in with. And then again, coming back to the coast to coast theme of basically everybody that's touched on it is checking in with yourself too, and making sure you're all right. Because when you're always looking after everybody else, it's not an easy thing to do, to check in on yourself. And I went through something in this fall that I haven't shared publicly, but I feel like right now it's fine. We're networking, and here we are, and I don't have my screen on, so it's dark behind me anyway. But I wasn't even an AT at the time. I jumped out of the car at the scene of a construction accident and ran over to help, and ended up having somebody die in my hands this fall. And not for lack of trying, not for lack of not for patting myself on the back, but it just started bubbling up in me right now that I need to get this off my chest, or this isn't going to go well. And I shared this with a couple people back home that I really leaned on for it, and all of them in the therapy world, and that I built relationships with, and still not easy to talk about, but talking about it is kind of, it's a massive part of the healing process, regardless of if it's a physical injury or dealing with something that's major. At the university, at York, and in the AT world, we all lost somebody as part of our family with Dana passing away, and we had Mark Cross at York, who was an assistant coach on that Humboldt bus, and and it goes through there. Sorry for the background noise. I'm in the lobby. I'm just going to mute this. These guys are really loud. Poor timing. But hang on one second.
I'm just going to jump in while James is muted. And I just want to make sure that I know everybody knows this, but I just want to make sure that everybody knows that as ATs, there are like resources out there, right? So we have a program called AT 911. I believe it was started by Francis Flint, and it's a great, if you ever need anything, I mean, people, we've been around for a long time, but there's a lot of new people that I don't recognize on this call. So, if you do need to reach out to that resource, that it's there for you, as well as if you are interested in doing the training for it too. I know Francis is always looking to have more people educated so that we can support each other. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, I appreciate you jumping in. That was just timing. And Frances actually reached out when I sort of started these sessions, and she said, if you ever want somebody on here to talk about it, I'd be more than happy to. And Frances is a role model to a lot of people, and for a lot of different reasons, her sweaters included. Nadine gets it. I think some other people might be laughing, but that's it. No, that's a huge resource. And that kind of brings me to the next and last question, because I won't keep everybody here. I know it's getting to dinner time on the West Coast. It's getting to bedtime on the East Coast, and everywhere in between. It's party time. So we'll let you get out of here fairly soon. But Frances is a role model to me. Frances was one of the first people that took me under her wing at York, because I had I had some baseball background, and she really enjoyed baseball. And then I came in as a completed undergrad into York and did the program there. And I had a run in with Joe Kenny at Brock University, and Steve Lidstone's there now, and all these people I've run into over the time have been massive resources for me and influence in terms of my AT and S&C and just as a human, I think, more than anything else. So let's go east to west on this one. So Krista, we'll start with you. You want to maybe just one or two of your influencers, either current or past, in terms of your professional world?
Well, I did my athletic therapy at Sheridan College. So people like Joe Rotella, Ann Hartley, also Racquel, Barry Bartlett, very, very influential in my life, my career path for sure. So.
Awesome. Let's appreciate it. And I think, like, for anybody listening in, if you're fairly new to the AT profession, or you're just not from the school, or you're not familiar, write these names down, and I'll try and post them all when I go back and review this. But write some names down, because the majority of these, I'd imagine, are going to be Canadian, and they're going to be ATs, either current or former, and you'll run into them at that next CATA conference that we're all going to be at in the future, where the tab is going to be massive. So let's keep going. Let's head west. Jocelyn, you're up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of the same. So I was old school Sheridan, and like for me, Joe was a big connection. He taught some of the classes in between for the Guelphis to get caught up. So Joe Rotella was definitely a big one, and Chris Jackson. The two of them just really taught with so much passion. That's what really got me. Like, they taught like it was the most important thing in their life. So that really hooked me in for sure. But even local, like, we're a small little close-knit group out here in Atlantic provinces, and some of the therapists that have been around for a while, we don't get together often, but every time you see each other in the field, like Tara Sutherland and Jim McLeod, Curtis talked about, they're always willing to share stories. I always learn something every time I travel to a game. It never fails. And I think too, I've been fortunate enough to be around some doctors and some surgeons who just have a lot of confidence in ATs, and it's unbelievable when you have, a really successful and well-known doctor or ortho in your corner who is willing to go to bat for you and just has that confidence in you. And I've been working with Dr. Forsyth in Moncton for, I think, basically my whole time here, maybe for 10 or 12 of the 15 anyway. And it's been really, really great when you have doctors like that are just 100% in your corner.
Amazing insight, and a lot of good names. And if you're open to it, we can figure out a way to get maybe your email or something like that, or whatever is the easiest way to get a hold of you. Because I know this has been that's a really good insight and talking point for ATs. How do I connect with doctors? How do I connect with orthos? How do I connect with people? And how do I get them to take me seriously in that our profession is not necessarily so well known? We've had a couple really good doctors on here, really good physicians, another one coming up in a couple weeks here. And those are important when a good, solid surgeon or physician or chiropractor or physiotherapist or whatever the title may be refers and has confidence in an athletic therapist. That's where we need to pump our tires up and continue to pat ourselves on the back and really grow those relationships. So great talking points and some really good references and names there as well. So Curtis, go for it.
Yeah, just to kind of follow up with what Jocelyn was saying. I mean, in the Atlantic University conference, like people like Jocelyn and Krista, I mean, just seeing them at games and talking to them has been huge. Same as throughout the other schools as well, like people like Joe and Tara who have already been named. Just me coming in a little bit younger and just kind of following suit of everybody else. Kurt Stevenson and Chad Newhook at St. Mary's have been big helpers for me. But I already mentioned Jim. Kind of funny, when I graduated from Acadia, I told Jim that I would be coming back for his job someday, and I ended up taking it. So Jim has helped me along the way. Funny enough, he kind of looks like me. We're both short, beards and glasses. So I actually dressed up as him at our kinesiology banquet when I graduated. So it's kind of funny. Maybe I can share the picture with you, James, sometimes.
You mentioned it, now I'm seeing it. I just put a mental picture up of him next to you. You're spot on.
yeah, for sure. So Jim and I we go back to when I was in school. So I kept tabs with him throughout when I was out west and whatnot, and huge influence in my life. And then when I was out west as well, I was lucky enough to be have a placement at the Canadian Sport Institute there at Winsport in Calgary, and Kevin Wagner was kind of my supervisor there, and he's a PTAT, and he was very, very, like, the guy gave me when I moved to Lethbridge, gave me couches and kitchen supplies and stuff like that. So just a huge part of my life, and kind of similar to Jim, I just kept tabs with him and kept communicating and just asking questions, and got me to where I am today.
Hey, well, good on you, man. Your stick-to-itiveness and coming back around for Jim's job is that's awesome. That's a great story that you'll be telling for years and years and years, and you'll know as you get older too that it'll become a bigger and bigger fishtail as you go along too. So that's the best part about getting older. Andy, you're up, man.
Oh man, there's a few. Definitely have to. The first real athletic therapy course that I took was like the assessment course. Before that, it was all like the anatomy and that kind of stuff. So the assessment of upper and lower body injuries, I was lucky enough to have Glenn Bergeron as my teacher for that, and that set me up really well because Glenn is such a smart guy. So he was one, and then the other one maybe more. I mean, he was still a great instructor, but it was just more his attitude and that would be Ben Trunzo, who used to be the head athletic therapist at the University of Winnipeg, and the head athletic therapist with I guess Team Canada volleyball, and just the work ethic that guy had and has still, and his attitude towards the whole thing just really, I think that rubbed off on me a lot. And then Jeff Bilek, who is current head athletic therapist at the University of Winnipeg. I mean, he was my SAT back in the day, and he was also the guy that gave me my first job and my first, not my first job, but my first job in the university setting. So I'll forever be grateful for him and the time I got to spend with him. And I do a really mean impression of him too. So if you guys see me when we're putting that big bill together at the CATA conference, if you want to see it, but by all means talk to me. And then the other one would be Robin Edge, and I'm sure I'm going to echo what Carlo is going to say about her. She's just a fantastic therapist and a really, really close friend of mine. And yeah, those would be probably the four most influential people in kind of my my setting. And you know what, also Katrina Lambert, who again, the head therapist at the University of Bishops, she's been a great friend and confidant in my time out here, and yeah, has been a really big influence on me as well. So
yeah, man, awesome.
There's so many. I mean, all of us could just keep going with all sorts of people that in one way or another that have either taught us a small little something or have been, you know, there for us at a particular time. But I'd say those would be my top 5 right there.
Awesome, yeah, and nobody's taking offense if they get left off, because I think that's the way I think it's the way it works. You know, like we've all worked with a lot of people and talked to a lot of people, and I don't know. For me, this platform is also about like public acknowledgement and public thanks for the people who are on here and the time and the influence that they've had in, you know, in my life. It's not about anything other than that. So leaving somebody off for this right now, I know that there's been a lot of people that have created the foundation for every therapist that's out there, and continue, you know, like I'm with you 100%. So appreciate it, Andy. And let's move westward to Ontario. I'm coming for you. Nadine, you're up.
Yeah, thanks. So the first person I think of is Dave Barry. He was the head AT at U Ottawa when I started my undergrad there. He's no longer an AT. He's a real estate agent, very successful in Ottawa. But he really had a passion for athletic therapy and kind of took me under his wing. And then, of course, I move on to my York profs. So Francis, Cindy, of course, we had similar hair, so we bonded.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
And of course, Gus Candilis. But my placements at U of T, Storm and Norman Calder. So I don't know if any of you know him, but he's one of the old guys, and he introduced me to all the other old guys like Jim McLeod and Dexter and Dale and all those guys. And then there's 2 other people, Tisha Westbrook, Hatija now. She was my placement supervisor, and I learned so much from her. She's an amazing woman. And lastly, my boss for 20 years, Bruce Marshall, who's actually retiring at the end of June.
Wow.
And yeah, so he's, you know, he's been my mentor for 20 years. He took a chance on me, and hopefully I haven't disappointed.
No chance that you have. Absolutely no chance that you've disappointed. And funny story about Bruce was my first job out of school was with the Ottawa Rapids that no longer exist. And they were a Can-Am baseball team. And I took a flyer. I drove out to Ottawa. I did an interview. I might have worn a suit. They hired me on my drive back to Toronto on the phone. I think it might have been a flip phone at the time. And then but anyway, when the season started, I reached out to Bruce and said like, hey, I don't know anything about anything, and I'm in Ottawa, and you're in Ottawa, and I hear good things about you. I don't think we'd met. We maybe had a couple conversations, and he's like, well, school's out for the summer. We have some excess stuff that we don't really use. I can bring you a hydrocollator. And then I had to go to like a textbook because I don't think I had a cell phone or Google at the time. And I was like, what's a hydrocollator? Because I didn't pay attention. And anyway, he just came over and gave me a bunch of stuff to start out the season, and just was always there and set me up with Dr. I'm trying to remember, Dr. Cho, Dr. Chow. What was his name? He was an ortho
Don
guy.
Chow?
Yeah, Don Chow. Yeah, Don Chow.
He's the SENS guy.
Yeah. I did not mean to mispronounce his name. I just couldn't remember if it was Cho or Chow. And he was fantastic. Like Bruce set up that relationship, and then that was a working relationship through the year. And Bruce was kind of a conduit in that Ottawa area, obviously a massive influence. And now you're it, Nadine. So next time I get hired by a Can-Am baseball team that's going to last 8 months, I'm going to call you for a hydrocollator, and I'm going to know what it is this time. So get ready. All right, let's keep going westward bound out to Carlo, Winnipeg.
Oh, wow. Well, Andy took all of the people I was going to say. And so, but you know what, from the very beginning, like I said, I was going to university thinking I was going to go into education, but then Robin Edge was really the one that drove me into athletic therapy. After my first year, I went and saw her, and I actually ended up shadowing her for the summer for me to think and make the decision, is this something I really want? And the more I looked into it, the more she talked about it. And she's a very passionate person when it comes to athletic therapy as well. she just had that, and it rubbed off on me. And then as I was moving on to onto the program, like Ben Trenzo, Glenn Bergeron, Andrew Grant, like they all taught me. There's a lot of things that they gave me that I find that I'm using quite a bit right now. Like almost every day in the clinic, there's not a moment where I'm like, oh yeah, I remember. Like there's always a moment where like, oh yeah, like Andrew told me this, or like Glenn told me this. Like their voices are always in my head when it comes to that. But one thing that really sticks with me right now is like, so I'm in my third year of athletic therapy as a professional. Robin Edge kind of just told me, you know, like this is the advice that she gave me, is that the first 5 years of you being in athletic therapy, like always surround yourself with people that are smarter than you, like take in as much as you can. And that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm volunteering for every opportunity. It may not be the best thing financially, but it is something that is helpful for me, and it's giving me a lot of hope and a lot of motivation in this profession. And it's something that I really value, and it's something that I always say to my students when I work with them. It's like, you know what, like just keep going at it, like immerse yourself with everything, and that's something that I really enjoy. And yeah, so yeah, that's all I got.
Man, I appreciate it, and it's great insight. And it's not just your first 5 years. Believe me, I'm pushing close to. I think I'm close to 15 now, and I'm surrounding myself with you because you're smarter than me, and everybody on this chat because they're smarter. Well, that's not hard to do, but don't take that as a knock. That's definitely a compliment. And learning is a lifelong thing, you know. And so surrounding yourself with people and continuing to grow, don't let that stop, because everybody on here has talked about people who are passionate and people who have helped them, and the passion is resounding with each one of you as you talk about your stories, even if they're tough ones, even if they're tough rehabs. You can feel it, you can sense the depth of your practice and what you do. So everybody who's on here, just keep going and don't stop learning. And this is the idea with these chats, is this is it. Network with people, talk with people, grow this profession, grow the understanding of what this profession is and can be, I think, more than anything else, because there's a lot of potential in athletic therapy in Canada, and in everybody that's on here that's still untapped, that we just keep constantly coming back to cultivate more and more and more. And this is part of my driving force to do this, and coming back to Ontario, if we can get through the border in a few days, to keep enhancing this and keep growing, and willing to do some more with like chats like this, and feedback from all of you as we get to the end of this one and beyond, goes a long way, and your input is massive. Let's go over to Saskatchewan, and we have Racquel for her influences, and then we'll get to the West Coast and wrap up here.
Awesome, great. So first of all, as James had mentioned at the beginning, I was hesitant to come on this chat, just again, like Carlo, being newer to the profession. I only certified in 2017, so I wasn't sure what I could really add to value. So I appreciate all of you that are on here, because all your stories are really inspiring. And so in addition to that, influential people from my university career, I think they extend from, for me, like coaches, teammates, profs, but one person in particular that sticks out is obviously Nicole Renenberg. I often joke saying I'm following in her footsteps. I have no intention of taking her job, seeing as she's only a handful of years older than I am, and she simply can't be replaced. But I hope that in the upcoming years, the U of R sees the need to hire a third therapist, and I can continue to work with the U of R in a full-time capacity. But I'm super grateful right now to be covering her position, and it's big shoes to fill, especially with what's going on right now in the world. But yeah, I'm super thankful and grateful to have met all of you here tonight.
That's awesome, and that's amazing, and don't feel like you have to fill the shoes. Just make sure you wear your own. That's a piece of advice that I would advise anybody after this many years, is trying to walk in somebody else's shoes is pretty tough. We know what it does. Sometimes you need to put orthotics in there. Sometimes you need to put like a heel pad or something if you're wearing somebody else's shoes. But you put on yours, and they're pretty comfy. You know just what to do. So stick in your shoes, continue to grow, and don't worry about taking somebody else's job. You'll create what you want. Just keep with it. You have a great personality, and your willingness to come on here and be honest and be vulnerable and be grateful publicly is that goes a long way, believe me. And I really appreciate your time and for being here and your willingness.
Thanks.
So thanks. TJ, you're up, man.
All right, I'll keep my list fairly short, even though there's quite a few of them out there. I think the biggest influence that I've had has been Joan Matthews-White, who's a head therapist at U of A. She was around day one when I started out as a student, I think 16 years ago. And then after I went to Mount Royal, she was my supervisor athletic therapist when I'm coming back to the U of A. And then she was the one who ended up hiring me too. She's turned into more of a friend and a little bit of a confidant too, as a couple of the others I've mentioned. And it's not just in the AT realm that she's really fostered my livelihood. I think going through with kids, and I'm sure anyone who with kids knows, you kind of lean on everybody else. And she's been somebody that I leaned on personally through some kids stuff, some family stuff. So she's been a huge influence, not just as an AT, but personally as well. And probably the other one that's had a huge influence, and probably without even really realizing, as was somebody Nadine mentioned too, was Khadijah Westbrook down in Calgary. And she's just always been somebody that's been open to every conversation and available and make time for you no matter who you are or what you're doing. And I think the way that she approaches the profession and the growth of the profession has been huge. And I've just tried to take that in stride and follow in her footsteps in that regard too.
Appreciate it, man. And some more dynamite insight and, having somebody from the start of your career to the middle years of your career to your growth into parenthood and as a professional, that's amazing. So really appreciate you name dropping and sharing that with us. And there are so many dynamite people in this country that are influential in this profession that if you can nudge her and get her on here, well, I'll be happy to host to have her on here to talk about you when you were a student and beyond. Let's head out west. You batted lead off. You might as well close it out too, Kev. Go ahead.
Thanks, James. I'll probably echo some other comments that were made earlier about some Sheridan folks. People like Kirsty McKenzie, Lorianne Hines, Joe Rotella, Ann Hartley. I had the fortunate opportunity to be instructed by those individuals, and with Lorianne Hines being my SAT, they really cultivated that passion, like many of you also said, the passion for athletic therapy, and from there, taking a lot of taking that and taking it out to the West Coast. And then being able to jump into a role with the BC Lions under Billy Rochelle, who spent almost 40 years as the CFL head trainer, head trainer for the BC Lions. And, he's seen everything. And the stories he could tell and the things that he was able to share with me is unbelievable. So I learned a lot from him. And then you'll appreciate this one too, James, is George Poulos, which if many of you were on that call last week that you interviewed, I was an intern in 2007 with the Jays, and then 2009 I went to spring training with them as well. So that's where James and I know each other from. And George was another amazing guy to learn from. So humble, so giving of his time. And it's just some of those characteristics that I want to embody with the way I practice. So I really took a lot from him. And then I was able to recently be able to rub shoulders among some really great individuals in Rick Celebrini, Chris Franks, Alex McKechnie, some great sport performance individuals that were with the Whitecaps at the time. Learning about that, they're physiotherapists, but learning from that sport performance realm, that incorporating the therapy side, the strength and conditioning side, and how to bridge that gap and really boost performance that way, and seeing a whole the centered approach. And it was I'd taken a lot of information from those guys and learning a lot from them and trying to make it my own. So it's just lots of individuals, but definitely some amazing people to be able to learn along from.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. And you bring up a good point, that connection and that cross pollination of professionals. This is not an AT chat to specify what it is that ATs are or separate us from anybody else. It's more of like an integrative approach to what the healthcare professionals can be with that outlook. And so that's a great way to close it out in terms of, utilizing who's around, integrating ourselves into those and having them integrate into our environments, and then eliminating the hour and the divide or the borders between, professions. Everybody's touched on working with other professionals to get the best for the athlete-centered approach, and I think that's massive. And then you segue nicely into tomorrow night. The show must go on. So tomorrow night is a really good friend of mine, a colleague, a former colleague, still a colleague, a friend, a mentor. Adam Douglas will be on tomorrow night, so it'll be 7:45. It'll be the Sunday ID and password for those of you that have been on before. Adam will be on. We'll be in a little closer to Ontario, hopefully, and making our way back. And really looking forward to that chat. Not to minimize what this one means. This was a big one for me, in that you guys all responded and were willing to do this. And so Krista, Jocelyn, Curtis, Andy, Nadine, Carlo, Racquel, TJ, and Kevin, really, really appreciate you guys, your time, your willingness to be on here, your willingness to share, and more than anything else, the fact that you're helping this profession through one conversation at a time. You're helping this profession through one angle of looking at things, through a lens, and through a wider scope of practice than any of us know. Students are on here, younger students, head trainers, head therapists, strength coaches. I think tonight was easily the greatest session that we've had to date in terms of the knowledge and the breadth of practice. This one goes a long way. I'm going to go to the CATA and ask them to put this one up on the website. I think everybody sharing their stories and the value of what we can be as a profession is massive. And for everybody else that made it in tonight, really appreciate it. I'll try and post this, but it'll probably be Tuesday or Wednesday before I can, because this is an iPad and I don't know how to use it. And there's travel and there's no Wi-Fi and there's two dogs, a cat, and all these other things that are going on in this car. And anyway, to all seriousness, guys, from coast to coast, this has been Talkey Night in Canada. Let's Chat and Athletic Therapy Roundtable, a special edition. And I really appreciate you guys' time. Please spread the word on this. Please spread the word on our profession. Keep having a dialogue, keep learning, keep driving this thing home. And June is Athletic Therapy Month, so great opportunity to have some more discussions. So I am bowing to each one of you right now. My camera is too dark where I am to turn it on, but I really, really appreciate you guys being on. And makes a huge difference, and there's such good feedback already on this one. And so I look forward to that CATA conference and footing the bill for you. So appreciate, water only, expensive water. But anyway, I look forward to connecting in the future, guys. I'll reach out and follow up with you. I'll get this one posted to YouTube for everybody as well in the archive, like I mentioned. And please come back tomorrow night if you can. If not, the YouTube channel is getting ever closer to 100 subscribers, so it might get its own domain name or whatever. So it doesn't have to be like X percentage 432. So tell your friends, let's get it to 100, and then we can all share in that one. I really appreciate it, guys. Again, thank you. Coast to coast with ATs. It's been an honor. Thank you so much, and good night.
Thank you, James. Man, it was a real pleasure being on.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers, everyone.
Thanks for hosting, James.
All right, guys. Good night.
Thanks very much.
Thanks again for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of this community. Check us out online, firststartherapy.com. That's FIRSTAR therapy.com. Or email us with feedback, consult@firststartherapy.com. CONSULT@firststartherapy.com. On Instagram @firststar.therapy, and our podcast host @letschat.at. This is First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast.